So, my name is Bernard Lycke and I'm director of CECRA, which is the European Council for Motor Trades and Repairs. We are based in Brussels, Belgium. We represent 24 national associations all over Europe, and these associations represent the interests of dealers and repairers. So, automotive dealer and repairers all over Europe, 24 associations. Then we have also what we call European dealer councils, and they gather dealers from a specific brand. And at the moment we have 12 European dealer councils. And among these dealer councils we have also Euroda, which was presented to you by the representative of Opel a few minutes ago. They are a member of CECRA as well. We have also what we call observer members. These are members outside Europe, and we had as a member during 1 year, we had the Road Association from Russia, and that all over Europe we are representing 380,000 companies, which is a lot. What are we doing with all these companies? Well, we are based in Brussels, and in Brussels you have the seat of the European Commission, you have also the European Parliament and other European institutions. It means that our main role is, of course, to represent the interests of all these companies, the 380,000 companies, vis-à-vis the Commission, so the European Commission, which is a very important institution, as you all know, and also the Parliament. Where are we today in terms of market situation in Europe? Here you have a slide which explains to you that in 2013, so last year, we were back to the level of 95-96, which means more or less 12.4 million cars, new cars registered per year. Of course, it's not a good situation, because as you can see, and as I have said, it's back to the level of 95-96, and we had, of course, better figures in the former years. Some people say often we will come back to these levels, and they speak about 15 million cars very soon. Personally, I don't think it will be the case, and I think that we have to face a sort of saturated market in Europe, and that the levels that we had, 14-15 million cars, will not come back, or at least will not come back very soon in Europe. What are the forecasts for this year? Every year we prepare forecasts, and these are specific forecasts for the car sector. And we are more or less, I would say, in the right figures when we are announcing the forecast. Our own forecasts are not the forecasts of the manufacturer. I would like to attract your attention on the fact that sometimes we face very high forecasts coming from manufacturers. We want to see the reality. And the reality, as I said before, was this 12.4 million cars in Europe. About profitability, I was very, very interested by what was mentioned this morning by several representative brands representatives, and in particular the representative from Opel. When we speak about multi-branding, and I will do it also in a few minutes, we have to try to understand why the dealers have taken several brands. And we always insist on the fact that most of the dealers who decided to represent a second or third brand, they didn't do it by pleasure, I would say. They did it because they had to do it. They had to take this decision to survive. And I have always to re-explain the same. Of course, it depends on the public. Sometimes this information is well understood. Sometimes it's difficult to bring this message. But multi-branding for us is really important due to the profitability situation in Europe. Of course, I will limit myself to Europe. There are other speakers for the Russian market and for United States, etc. But my role is to explain you the situation in Europe, and I can tell you that the profitability in Europe is not good. You have the figure here, so 1% net profit in 2012, it's an average, of course, and 1.1 in 2013. You have in Europe 30% or even 35% of dealers in loss. This is the situation. It doesn't come from CECRA, these figures. It comes from a specific company called ASC. We can tell what we want, but based on this situation, it's very difficult, I think, for manufacturers to answer questions about increasing standards, continuing to increase standards. We have to take into account this situation as well. I do not say that it's not possible to increase standards for some brands, certainly not. I just say that continuing to increase standards in general is very difficult due to this particular situation, profitability of dealers at the moment. When we explain the situation of dealers in Europe, we also explain that what we want is not to be helped. Our members do not need help. They need to be able to make their own decisions. And at the moment, it's not the case in Europe. And if we take examples of manufacturers, we see that manufacturers often are going elsewhere. For example, at the moment, the situation in Europe is not easy. I understand that it's not easy neither in Russia, of course, but there are some other parts of the world where the manufacturers try to develop their own activities. And it's logical. I have nothing to say against this. But please, when we say that the manufacturers are trying to open new markets, etc., which is, of course, fully normal from their point of view, at least the dealers should have also the right to adapt themselves to the difficult situation at the moment. And you can see here the situation from some manufacturers going in some parts of the world. I will not explain, you know this, it's a general situation. If we take the example of a specific brand going to China, to other parts of the world, of course, it's to improve also their situation and to go to these emerging markets. So what we say is that franchise dealers do not have the opportunity to concentrate sales activities on other markets. Of course, they are in their own market. They cannot do as manufacturers and going in China, for example. This would not be possible. They have ways to operate profitability in the given market environment. And this is very, very important. It's in the interest of not only of our members, so the dealers, their employees, but also in the interest of the manufacturers and the consumers to avoid closure of dealerships. This is our key message within CECRA. I will speak very shortly about the legal situation in Europe. It was also explained by the Opel representative, so the situation has changed last year. We had a block exemption regulation until May 2013, and this is now over. We have a general block exemptions regulation since the 1st of June 2013. The Commission, the European Commission, has decided a few years ago to create a high-level group called, at that time, CARS 21, and followed by CARS 2020. And this group, CARS 2020, is a group of experts really dedicated to the automotive sector. And as I said, we speak a lot about all topics concerning the automotive in general. And in particular, you see the topics here: economic situation and industrial changes, clean vehicles, trade and international harmonization, but in particular, CECRA focused on the internal market discussion. And in this internal market discussion, we discuss relations between manufacturers and dealers. We think and we are convinced that the former block exemption, the last one, we had 3 specific block exemption regulations, and the last one was from 2002, was the regulation where we had the best balances between the interests of the manufacturers and of the dealers. We do not ask extreme solutions in favor of dealers. It's not what we say. We want balanced situation between manufacturers and dealers, and we really are convinced that the former block exemption regulation, the 1400/2002, was the best way to achieve this balance. So what we tried since this block exemption regulation is now over is to achieve a code of conduct between manufacturers and dealers. And it's a voluntary approach, so it's soft law approach, it's not a legally binding solution, but it has been discussed very long during CARS 2020 discussions. The final report of this famous CARS 2020 report, if you want to see it, it's very easy to find it on the web. It mentions that the Commission reserves the right to initiate a process with the aim of adopting a legislative proposal regulating relations between different players. These different players are of course, the manufacturers and the dealers. And this will be the case if there is no agreement, so the soft law approach, no code of conduct by the end of this year. It means in 1 month, more or less. Irrespective of the final wording of this CARS 2020 discussion, it's very likely that the Commission will be obliged to initiate this legal process. Because, as I said before, we are now end of November and we are in discussion since more than 3 years with manufacturers to reach this soft law approach, this code of conduct, and despite a lot of efforts, we do not have a solution yet. So most probably we will have to begin next year, in February probably, with the discussion about a new initiative covering the gap left by this former block exemption regulation. And in particular, what we are asking is the freedom for dealers to transfer the sales contracts to another member of the authorized network, which was the case in the past with the last block exemption regulation. A dealer from a specific brand could perfectly sell to another dealer of the same brand without the prior consent of the manufacturer. And this is very important in the actual circumstances where there are probably more dealers who want to stop their activities than dealers who want to enter the market. If you do not have the authorization, or if you need the authorization to sell your activity, if you need this authorization by the manufacturer, it can stop and it can block the process of selling your activity. Just because your manufacturer could have another opinion of you. He would like, for example, that you would sell your activity to dealer B or C and not to dealer A. But maybe that dealer B or C is not ready to pay the same amount of money than the dealer A. And this point is very important for us, and we would like to find a compromise or a solution with the manufacturer about this. A second point, and it has been mentioned by the manufacturers before in their presentation, I was really impressed by the presentation of Opel. Multi-branding is important and interesting, and we at CECRA's level, we think it's important and necessary. This is really the message that we want to give. And the last point that we would like to realize with the manufacturer is the compensation for relation-specific investment in case the contract is cancelled by the manufacturer. Here we do not speak about fault of the dealer. If the dealer is in fault because it doesn't fulfill his obligation, okay, we cannot defend him or her. But if the dealer fulfills all the obligations, if he made specific investment required by the brand, and that the brand decides to stop, everybody is free to cancel a contract, dealers and manufacturers, it can happen. But then we ask that the specific investments made for the brand would be compensated by the manufacturer. In addition to this discussion, so CARS 2020, we try to reach a code of conduct. Deadline is end of the year. If it doesn't succeed, most probably it will be very difficult due to this very difficult deadline now. We will go for a legally binding solution, and at least CECRA will ask to obtain these 3 points that I have mentioned, so free transfer of business, multi-branding, and compensation. There is another opportunity for us to defend the interests of the dealers and to try to achieve a better balance between dealers and manufacturers, and it's what we call UTPS. And UTPS, it's unfair trading practices, where the Commission I will not go into too much detail because it would take too much time, but the Commission tries to identify several unfair practices, not only for the automotive sector, in general, for all sectors. And there we have participated to 2 questionnaires, and we have tried to explain that there are, unfortunately, as you all know, unfair practices in all sectors as well. And there were a lot of answers coming from dealers. At least there was a specific chapter only for the automotive sector, showing that at least there are enough examples of unfair practices in our sector. And now we are asking also to the Commission to take an initiative, not only for the food sector. The Commission wants first to attack the food sector, but also for the non-food sectors, including the automotive sector. This is at European level. So what we are trying to do is, of course, at European level. But at the same time, our members, the national associations, are also trying to achieve this better balance at national level. And now we have also in Austria, in Luxembourg and Belgium, 3 European countries, national laws protecting or covering, I would say, some of these points. Which points? The free transfer of business and the compensation. Multi-branding is not covered by the laws in these 3 countries, but at least the other points are covered. Austria and Luxembourg have a full law protecting dealers about all these points, and Belgium has a partial law, I would say, which is an old law from '61, but at least it still exists. In all the other European countries, you do not have any specific law about this. You have, of course, general principles, acting in good faith, etc., which is, of course, existing, but you do not have any specific law. And therefore, we think that it's so important to find a solution at European level. Then I will mention, but very briefly, some other issues that we are tackling. So the first really important issue, as you have all understood, is the post-block exemption regulation solutions that we are trying to achieve by CARS 2020 discussion, the soft law approach or legally binding solution. This would be only for the automotive sector. Second point is covering unfair trading practices for all sectors. And now I will mention specific issues that have nothing to do with this very important lobbying activity. So this odometer fraud is a new issue, I would say, since some months now. We are busy with this issue. And we have launched a joint appeal to the members of the parliament, because you know that where you are buying a car as a consumer, when you are buying a car, it's very important to be sure that the car answers all the expectations that you have. If you buy the car and that after some months you discover that there was a manipulation of the odometer, you would not be very happy. And we saw also, because the Commission, the European Commission, is doing what we call scoreboards, is an analysis of 51 sectors from the consumer's perspective. And we see that the second-hand sector, so the used car sector, has a very bad image. And we try to know why. And we think and we are convinced that one of the points is really this problem of odometer fraud. So we try to solve this problem together with the Commission at European level. And I will not go in too much detail, but we have launched a joint appeal together with other associations, so CECRA, but also Lease Europe, for example, CETA, which represents the technical inspection committees, and also the consumers' organization. And this joint appeal is just an appeal to the Parliament to take initiative and to address this problem to the European Commission, that the European Commission takes a new regulation or new directive. These are the two kinds of legislative instruments that we can have in Europe to tackle this problem of odometer fraud. You know perfectly that if one day we would have technical solutions for this, we would not speak about odometer fraud anymore. But at the moment, we do not have these technical solutions. So we think that the best way to solve the problem is through the databases. And in Belgium and in the Netherlands, so 2 countries in Europe, we have databases. And when you are making an intervention on a car, as a dealer, as a repairer, as a tire specialist, you are obliged to report the mileage to this database. It's called CarPass in Belgium. It has another name in the Netherlands, it doesn't matter. You are obliged to report the mileage. And now, when you are buying a car as a consumer, you are buying a used car, you receive a report and you can see immediately if the the odometer has been manipulated or not. Because if it has been manipulated, of course, the kilometer will go back. And this is very easy to put in place. It's not so expensive. It costs you €7 as a consumer in Belgium when you buy such a car, and you are sure that the car has not been manipulated. Another issue, and I come to the end of my presentation, it's also what we call the Roadworthiness package, or PTI, Periodical Technical Inspection. The Commission has decided to improve the system. And now we think also that there will be a solution to this problem of odometer fraud, because when you will go to the technical inspection, you will also be obliged to report the mileage of the car. But this is only after 4 years, and we think that it's not enough, because some cars are riding very much, and waiting 4 years to go to technical inspection is too long for this problem of odometer fraud. I will not come into all the details of these periodical inspections, but you must know just one point, that there is a same basis in Europe, and then the countries can adapt the legislation country by country. But at least they have to respect these minimum rules that have been decided by the European Commission. My conclusion would be the following one. In Europe, and again I speak only for Europe, there will be fewer dealerships and small dealers will be particularly affected. What we see now, due to the figures that I have showed it at the beginning of my presentation, so the saturation of the market, we have now a consolidation of the market in Europe, it's very sure. You have big and large dealers, groups, they are continuing to grow, I would say, and small dealers suffering. We have the same situation, I would say, because we also represent independent repairers, so we can see the same situation in this market as well. Of course, somebody spoke about Internet and the role of Internet in the future. Of course, we all know that Internet also has a big role. We are convinced that the dealers have still a place, but of course the role of the salesman and of the dealers will have to change in the future due to this importance of Internet, and the people will be well informed before coming to the dealership. The legislative landscape, it's very difficult and uncertain at least until now, as I have tried to explain. But irrespective of this, what it could be in the future, we think that it's really important to find this balance between interests of dealers and manufacturers. And that is really the key message that we want to give at CECRA's level. And at the same time, we are trying to achieve this at European level, but also some of our members are trying to achieve it at national level, as I have mentioned, at least in Austria, Luxembourg and Belgium. Probably it will be more difficult to achieve this kind of legislation in countries where the manufacturers have a very important position, as you all imagine. We think that doing this, so going also for national solution, is perfectly possible, even if it would be better to achieve it at European level, because otherwise we will have a fragmentation of the market, and it means that dealers will be more protected in some countries than in other countries. In one word or one sentence, dealers in Europe need to have the right conditions to be able to adjust to the current economic situation. This is the key message, exactly as the manufacturer do by going elsewhere than in Europe at the moment.